Today's sources include the U.S. Department of the Interior National Park Service, the Carpenters Hall official website, Philly Voice, the Big Book of Pennsylvania Ghost Stories by Mark Nesbitt and Patty A. Wilson, Haunted History of Philadelphia by Josh Hitchens, A History of Heists, Bank Robbery in America by Jerry Clark and Ed Palatella, State Supreme Court Documents from 1808, the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts, and The Narrative of Patrick Lyon by Patrick Lyon. When people talk about politics, they often like to say the Founding Fathers must be rolling around in their graves right now. And if you believe any of the stories coming out of Carpenters Hall in Philadelphia, they could very well be walking around outside of their graves too. I'm Claudia Dimuro, bringing you the legends of Carpenters Hall during this special episode of Paranormal Pa. Carpenters Hall in Philadelphia was freshly completed when the First Continental Congress took place in 1774. The hall was built by the Carpenters Company of Philadelphia, now the country's oldest trade guild, whose members went on to become involved in other Philadelphian architectural marvels such as Reading Terminal and City Hall. It was also the site of the country's first major bank robbery, but more on that later. Those attending the Congress were, understandably, impassioned about the mission they were on and the future of the nation they sought to create. And if you're familiar with shows like Supernatural, you know that there's a theory out there that ghosts can be created from highly emotional situations. Heated arguments continue to ring throughout the main hall, only for staff and tourists alike to find it empty when they go to check in. A couple of caretakers who once lived in the building were abruptly awoken one night by the scraping of chairs against the floor, accompanied by what sounded like men's raised voices. The room, however, was completely orderly the next day. The only strange thing being, as smoking isn't permitted in the building, the smell of tobacco in the air. But there are ghosts of a less political kind that are said to haunt Carpenters Hall, too. It was the summer of 1798 when Isaac Davis enacted his bright idea to rob the Bank of Pennsylvania, the vaults of which were located at Carpenters Hall. Davis, as it so happens, was one of the Carpenters Company's own. In total, he managed to make off with $162,821. $3 million in today's money. To modern readers, this may not be at all that scandalous, especially after modern, more famous robberies like the Lufthansa heist, which involved way more money. But keep in mind that this was the first time the U.S. had seen a crime such as this. It was also a crime for which an innocent man, Patrick Lyon, initially took the blame. To be fair, Lyon did make a rather convenient suspect. He had fled Philadelphia not long before the robbery took place, although that could have been because a plague was raging throughout the city. Authorities also observed that there was no forced entry into the vaults. Lyon was the one who had made the original key. Lyon was eventually proven innocent, although not without hardship. He was thrown in prison for 3 months until Davis was arrested after depositing the money he had stolen back into the bank. Davis fessed up to police, admitting he was let in by Tom Cunningham, a bank porter who lived in one of the building's rooms and who was later found dead, decomposing in his attic room from the plague. The charges against Lyon were dismissed. Lyon did end up getting the last laugh. He brought a lawsuit against the bank, won, and was able to resurrect his business, and commission an oil painting of himself. He even published a memoir. But while Davis and Lyon are the main players of this tale, it's Cunningham's ghost that's said to still roam Carpenters Hall. James and Hazel O'Connor, who were caretakers back in the 60s, called the police after hearing loud footsteps booming from the attic one night. Police found nothing after investigating. Unsatisfied, the couple went to investigate themselves, and, while nothing was indeed there, were hit by a strong scent of decay. And the pair still continue to hear the footsteps. Their son, too, became subjected to paranormal activity when he slept over in the basement one night, only to become very unnerved by the sense he was being watched. The basement, for the record, was where the Bank of Pennsylvania used to be. There was even this time Hazel O'Connor freaked herself out while doing laundry in the basement. Even more so when the chair she was sitting in suddenly fell over and decided to bring the couple's dog downstairs for a little protection. It started to growl at some unseen thing in one of the room's dark corners, then quickly scampered back up the stairs with its tail between its legs. Reports of weird activity in Carpenters Hall didn't end with the O'Connors. Other caretakers got a whiff of strange smells too, and who knows what else. Josh Hitchens, author of Haunted History of Philadelphia, writes how a woman came up to him while on a ghost tour that stopped at the location and provided the following anecdote. Quote, "You may not believe me, but this is what happened. I visited Carpenters Hall earlier today with my kids. We were looking around at all the displays when all of a sudden there was this horrible smell in the room on the first floor. Just a minute or two later, the employees said they had to close the building and they were sorry, but they basically just shooed us all out of the building immediately and slapped the door shut in our faces, and I heard it lock. And I was really concerned because the smell in the room was something I recognized. I'm a police officer, and I've unfortunately experienced it before. There's no other smell like it. It was the smell of a rotting human corpse." End quote. Today, Carpenters Hall remains a popular spot for sightseers looking for a little dose of American history or the thrill of the supernatural, or both. To enter is free, and it is open every day but Monday, as well as a handful of holidays and other valuable days as well. Should you go yourself, whether for history or for ghosts, remember to keep your nose primed for any strange smells around. That ends the story of Carpenters Hall. If you like this story, be sure to read it in full on PennLive and to sign up for the Paranormal PA newsletter for even more creepy tales coming out of Pennsylvania. Be sure to also please rate this podcast wherever you listen to it. Thank you in advance, and thank you for listening. I'm Claudia Dimuro, and I'll see you next time for some more Paranormal PA.